Welcome. Nice to see you all. I'm Ben Fajzullin from the German foreign broadcaster Deutsche Welle, DW, from Berlin. Happy to be here again with some of my friends, colleagues, allies, and happy to see you all as well. Our session for the Open Forum today is protecting LGBTQI lives. Protecting. Yeah, we're not here to shove some sort of ideology down your throats. We're not here to try to be more than we are. We are normal, everyday people, some of whom are being shut down on social media, some of whom are working in businesses that are being shut down by a Trump government. There are real implications for lives and livelihoods. And I'd like to talk about that today with our panelists. If you want to join the conversation, we'll have a question time afterwards. You can also hashtag any of your comments or photos from the session with WEF25, also Open Forum 25. And if you do have a question at some stage during the session as well, then feel free to put up your hand and I'll get a microphone to you. But first of all, let's go through our panelists. JD LaRock, an entrepreneur, has an entrepreneur network that he set up, which we'll get to in a moment. We have China's Xing, a very big household name in China, who will have a lot to say on social media and politics. Same thing from you, Sarah-Kate Ellis from the advocacy group GLAD. Alex Cheng is a fellow Aussie and has also set up a network in Australia, but interestingly enough has also come across challenges. Frida is from Mexico and is here to tell us about the intricacies of social media lives, because it is getting more complicated and it's certainly not getting any easier. Should we start with that?
Yeah, sure. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for having me here. You know, I have been working on AI for more than 5 years. I have the pleasure of being honor member from Women in AI for Mexico City. And well, when it comes to talk about social media, it's very concerning because I have been growing up with this digital space where I used to be, or where I used to feel safe, and nowadays it has become some strange place for us. We are facing new regulations, or maybe, let's say, new algorithms that are creating this hostile environment for us.
How is that happening? What's changing with the algorithm right now?
Okay, well, let's say that for the past years we have had this kind of algorithms that reduces the hate speech. But nowadays, that kind of regulation on hate speech, it's not here anymore. We are changing the way we interact with each other. We are facing a lot of hate through bots. And also, this is concerning because the way we face the world, the way we interact with each other, it's not only in the physical world, it's also in the digital one. So we have to feel safe in these spaces because, for example, in my country, we have been facing a lot of violence. The first non-binary people that came into politics, them was murdered in November 2023.
Wow.
So it's not just about hearing hate speech, it's also about violence. I was telling backstage that we are having and facing this problem about feminism, that women are being killed as well, and 1 in 3 women in Mexico that are being killed are trans women. So this is something important. I was adopting to bring this statistic because it's very alarming, but I think this is important because if we start permitting this hate speech on social media, it could increase also hate crimes on the physical world. So that's why social media is also important for us, not only what is happening outside these spaces.
Sarah Kate Ellis, I find it interesting that this change in the algorithm, thanks to Mr. Zuckerberg, comes just as Mr. Trump starts his second term.
Yeah, it's no surprise. I mean, Mark goes with the wind and is always chasing a dollar. And so we know that algorithms are where the money is made, and the hate algorithms are the better ones. So what we've enacted is free speech for algorithms, not free speech for citizens, because we do know that more people are accepting and believe in equality for LGBTQ people. But you would never believe that if you go on to X or now Facebook. That's not where it's happening. And to your point, what's happening online is happening in real life. It models one to the other, and we're seeing an uptick in violence in the United States against LGBTQ people. We had to, last year, start an alert desk to track the violence because it had gotten so heinous and out of control. And that's everything from attacks at drag shows to trans women being murdered on the street. So we're seeing a direct correlation between the two.
Cheng, tell me a little bit about your life online, because you've been shut down by the Chinese state.
Yes, I was surprising. This is actually, after 30 years, I'm the first transgender come out of the public in China. 1995, I become the first transgender facing the public. And after that, actually, I have to give you a very clear picture. According to the LGBTQ, this issue, our Chinese government and society actually quite tolerant. We're open to it. We just, in our culture, in our policy, we don't want to bring such a subject, a sensitive subject, on the table. Maybe from a government level, society level, we're pretending it never existing. Come on, in China, we have over 35 million homosexuals. Everybody knows that, but nobody talk about it. In ancient history, we exist, it's nothing new. But we just don't want to talk about it. We have so many issues dealing with moment. But until last year, why they shut down my performance? It's a very critical moment. Actually, I have to be frankly speaking, my appearance in China stage, I'm a dancer, actress, and a TV host. 10 years ago, I was launching the first talk show in China. I was favored by the Chinese public, even the government. But I never talk about, emphasize I'm LGBT. I don't need to mention that. Be there already significant. But if you want to bring the subject on the table, let's discuss about it. No. That's too sensitive. That's taboo. So actually, the way we are mutually respect each other. Until last year, small story, one of the accidents happening in my performance. When I finished my theater performance, I was taking a bow to the finale to the public. And one young man bring the rainbow flag in front of my stage. Yes, sex is sex. Love is love, nothing with the genders. Of course, everybody in the open public theater never happened. Then even the theater security just don't know what to handle these things. I'm the leading actress on stage. Of course, I grabbed the flag. I said, okay, young man, I got it. I said, I fully understand you. Then I opened the flag to the public. I said, love is love, nothing with the gender. I put the flag on the side with my actors, taking a bow, the curtain closed. Boom. When I'm taking a bow, everybody loves me. Everybody photograph, filming it. And next day, become a YouTube. And people start attacking me, people from social media. Oh, she's a representative, highly raising the LGBT. I said, no, this is one accident happening in the theater finale performance. But after that, even the government investigating something happened behind this, something political movement behind this, Xing opened the flag? No. That was 2024 January. After January, February until October, my show's going on stage, on TV, blah, blah, everything's fine until last 2024 October. I have to perform in another city in Canton, get rejected by the local governments. I said, why? I said, give me a reason. I couldn't get any reason. And at the end, they bring up this issue again. Oh, you open the rainbow flag. I said, come on. But I think this moment, the critical moment, because between China and America, very critical because Donald Trump was highly recognized, only committed two genders in the world. And also, in the Chinese society, we have highly admired the kind of successful businessman, the Elon Musk. He have a huge business with his cars in China. He have a huge market. He make a lot of money in China. And of course, the Chinese people, wow, that's a big successful businessman, billionaire, everything. Everything, whatever he said is corrected. Of course, he emphasized his relationship with his older son become transgender. He had very bad relationship with his son. I think that's complete private issue, but ringing up is, opinion. This is a very sensitive issue. I think this critical moment, and Xing get there, okay, yes. She have a, background of American, blah, 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 blah. And they even on the social media they tag me, but I think this is very minority people to tag me. So, she's an American spy. She's undercover for 40 years. And she tried to use LGBTQ to turning over the... I said, give me a break. I'm just a performer on stage. I don't reason anything. Just let it be. In our culture in China, social always like this. I was on stage, public figure for 40 years. Nothing happened. Why last year?
So the difference is that now, you've always been visible.
Yeah.
And that's given great support to a community in China. But suddenly you've become too visible, which equals too powerful, which equals shut down.
Yes.
And what is the consequence then of that?
Consequences, of course, they cancel my performance. All my performance last November until I don't know when the cancellation is. I cannot get on stage. It's okay. I still have confidence in my society with my people because I have over 300 million viewers and fans in China. They love me. They know what I'm doing correct on stage as a transgender. So everything's positive. Just this moment, critical moment, the government don't want to make any noise in the social media. Since this topic is happening, quiet and quiet. Nobody talk about this issue. How can quiet let Xing silence a little bit?
So when the state silences, whether it be in China or the US, what happens to organizations, Alex, your organization, for example, JD, yours? Tell us about what happens to you.
Yeah, well, our organization is called the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. We are a 40-year-old organization that works in the US and around the world to help underserved students of any kind launch businesses. We happen to have a lot of LGBTQ students who take part in our programs. And the way we've always viewed it is, if you have joined our community of young entrepreneurs, you are part of our community no matter who you are and what you want to do. So if you are an LGBTQ individual and you want to start a business that meets a need in the community, that caters to the community, that wants to send a broader message, we are here to support you, and we do. And so to answer your question, I would say that in times like these, when the community is being challenged, and where frankly young people are both on their own, I must say, expressing very different kind of conversation and viewpoint about these issues, but still the power of political leaders and their words is impacting the community. I think we just have to firmly and calmly stand for our organizational values. And that's exactly what we're doing at NIFTY. So I personally believe, and our whole team and our organization strongly believes, that the way to be part of a more positive and constructive dialogue and to advance collective respect and dignity and to acknowledge our shared humanity is simply to show what LGBTQ entrepreneurs can do. And so that's exactly what we support. And we, frankly, we don't deny or diminish what is happening in the broader world, but I believe there's great power in simply expressing the positivity of our message.
So is this the time that individuals, entrepreneurs, organizations are forced to go to the private sector or to NGOs and break that cord with the state?
Yes. So for a bit of context, I founded a queer safe space based in Sydney. It's in a part of the community that's quite multicultural. And the challenge that we face there is not necessarily state silencing, but it's more of an apathy. So it's apathy around the needs and aspirations of LGBTQ youth in the region. In Australia, 2 out of 3 queer youth face harassment and abuse, and that's too much. And it's often amplified in areas where people may be more conservative and the institutions and I guess the sort of local government in the region may not be as supportive of all that. So what's really been crucial for us is relying on building coalitions quite broadly with other organisations. So, when the local government doesn't step in, it's us working with the university who has done work in this space, has done research in the community and understands what the community needs. So that has been a bit of a lifeline, relying on other institutions like that, looking at health organisations, how we can rely on referral pathways to bring people who are at risk into our safe space, and ultimately create a space where people can feel authentic, be able to be who they are and be around people who understand their lived experiences.
Because when you're not out there, when you're not visible and you're not talking about these topics, there are so many consequences for the health of young people who don't know the risks that they could be taking. There are implications for young people's careers. I mean, I know, for example, that I was scared of being thrown out of my church, out of my family, out of my home, not getting anywhere in my career, having threats from all sides, and having these organizations and these leaders to look up to, which I didn't, makes such a difference. So how do you turn around the talk on social media from hate speech, and which, as you point out rightly, is a small minority? But if a bot is involved, it suddenly becomes huge.
Yeah, well, I would like to tell you a story. 5 years ago, when I started to learn about AI, I was looking for some content in Spanish because, everything that we read about AI is in English. So I didn't find anything. And it was shocking for me because it was not only not in Spanish, there was no women talking about technology, especially AI. So I said, okay, what's happening here? Why don't we have a women? Let's let alone queer people, women, or content in Spanish. So I thought that was my responsibility to bring visibility, bring these topics to the table. Because when we are using these huge technologies such as AI, we have to be involved. We have to keep everyone's on mind. So, yeah, I was a little girl, and I said, okay, I have to start this movement. I have to start creating content about AI. So I didn't knew a lot about the topic, but I was like, okay, I'm going to take this from my heart with a lot of humble, and I will share what I'm learning with other people. So that's the way I started. 2 years after that, I became more visible about being part of the community because many of my friends were having struggle about being visible. So I thought that someone had to do it. And I felt strong at that moment. So yeah, I think it's very important because when I was a child, I couldn't find anyone like me. I didn't have this role model. And some of my family used to say these comments, aggressive comments about the community, and I was like, but no, I'm not like that. You know me. You know how I behave myself. So this has been my message along these years. I want more people to have this new figure, this queer vibes figure, and maybe they could feel related. They could have this new person talking about AI that it's not a white, cis European man,
So you're stepping into the void, so to speak, representing young ambition. Alex, in your case, we're not talking about silencing, but apathy, which can be just as bad. How do you convince local politicians then to support your cause?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The interesting thing about that is how we can rely on broad coalitions to align their interests to our interests as well. Young queer youth are youth, and youth are everywhere. And I think when we think about how we align their interests, we frame it in the perspective of how we can support young people in the region reach their full potential and aspirations. And it's acknowledging that youth face challenges, face barriers to reaching their full potential of all kinds. And I think the perspective that we took there was bringing everyone into the conversation, saying that it's important that everyone in this region can thrive and will be richer for that. And in order to do that, we do need to address the legitimate barriers and challenges that people face. And I think that brings in the conversation of all other people in the region. I think helps to create a convincing case for change as well.
JD, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think these examples that we're talking about right now, and Frida, your example of just claiming the space, is ultimately the answer to the question that you first raised. Let me tell you a story about a student, a nifty student, Peyton Bernstein, who's from Texas. Now, he's transgender, and he competed in our competitions and participated in our program last year. He's been stepping into his identity. He's very passionate about who he is and the community and the cause. He's also passionate about baking. And he decided that what he wanted to do in all of that was to launch a baking business, but launch it as a social entrepreneurship business where part of the proceeds from the business go to support the Trevor Project, which protects LGBTQ youth in the US. Now, that's a fantastic example of someone in a community that may not be entirely hospitable to who he is, but also claiming the space. And I was there in Texas with him as he gave his business pitch. And I can tell you that that room full of local teachers, business leaders, officials, including political officials, saw him first and foremost as a young entrepreneur. And more importantly, I think, saw him as a whole person and a real person, someone who should be taken seriously and someone who should be respected. And what organizations like ours at NIFTY, again, we're for everybody. We are for everybody in underserved communities. But when we say we're for everybody as part of those communities. And so that story in our system is replicated in city after city and country after country that we work in. And I know it can often feel dispiriting when we witness what can seem like the overwhelming power of powerful political people who have an opposite message. But I want to say again that the collection of those smaller stories, place after place after place, year after year after year, is ultimately the way to counteract what we're going through.
And let me just make it clear, it's not just about, well, it's not at all about prioritizing some young gay man or someone from the community. It's about giving opportunities to everyone, but especially letting these people express themselves. Can you just explain that in conjunction with entrepreneurship?
Yeah, you might wonder, what is the connection between youth entrepreneurship and LGBTQ issues? So let me explain. Entrepreneurship is at its best when it starts fundamentally with a person and who they are, their passion, whether that passion has to do with an identity like that which we're talking about today, or some other passion. And so what our organization literally does with 70,000 students in the US and 31 countries each year is to start with that simple question. Who are you and what are you passionate about? And then the next question is, do you think you could turn that into a business? And for our LGBTQ students, they often want to develop businesses that speak to who they are authentically. They often want to develop businesses that connect to the LGBTQ community, either as customers or to uplift the community. And then third, sometimes they want to start businesses that send a broader message, again, a positive message, not a political message, but just a message of passion in who they are to the society. And that's how we do it. And so, whether it's the example I just described or an example I can tell you out of Pittsburgh, a couple of years ago, another non-binary student named Hannah, who had a really fun idea. So her idea was to she's a kind of fashionista. And her idea was she wanted to have a business to have interchangeable platforms for platform shoes, so fashion platform shoes. There was nothing political about this idea, but at the same time, she was able to talk about it, and you knew exactly who she was and what her identity was, and it was fun, and it was also a great business idea. I mean, she went very far in our business plan competitions, and again, it's harnessing the positivity, the creativity that comes from identity and passion to change hearts and minds.
So you were giving her a platform, or she was giving you a platform?
Both ways, both ways.
But at the same time, someone with a passion, so I mean, a much better chance of being successful in business and doing something for people in your community, perhaps. But when someone deprives you of that, Xing, can you just tell me, what's it like? Because you're passionate about being a performer. That's your life, being on stage. When someone takes that away from you, how do you feel?
From the beginning, the day I went out of the society as a transgender, I already prepared all the prejudice, all the discriminations, everything. It's naturally there. It's unusual. But if you already prepare yourself for facing the society, then you're asking. Then I said, maybe they're not ready yet. So I can change. In 1995, I become out, transgender woman. And that time, each time I performance, all my newspaper critic, advertising, always say transgender dancer, transsexual dancer, blah, blah, everything has a title. After 10 years, they moved the words, just Madame Xing. I think how do you way to behave, performance, convince the society we deserve treat equally. But in our country, in China, we don't want to raise any issue. You can be LGBTQ plus whatever, but you just don't mention it. Don't labelize yourself. You find your job. Use your ability to prove you deserve equal treatment. That's fine. But if you want to emphasize, oh, I'm gay, I'm transgender, I need extra attention, I need spiritual. No.
So are you going to be in trouble for talking to us today, for being on this stage, for talking about this topic?
Maybe somebody capture my talk, and tomorrow on social media China, they bring me to another directions. Maybe they manipulate it. But I'm always the person. I love my Chinese public because I'm always straightforward. I say from my bottom of my heart, I'm not representing any party. Even so many groups ask me, oh, Madame Xing, you have to represent the LGBT group in China. I said, no, I don't represent nobody. I only represent myself. My existence in China as a performer on stage already a lot. That's already saying, I don't need to make any extra statement. I think that's the Chinese society. Live your life, make your money, but don't make any statement out. Don't make creative buzz out of it. Then we both leave us alone. But when you use this bring to the political issue, that's sensitive. That's sensitive. That's why I think for me, for the moment, I'm forbidden to get on stage, but I know eventually I'll get back on my stage because I have a huge base of a public there. They say, oh, she's just like normal. I have 3 children, I have a husband, I live my own life, I'm just a performer. What else? I think this the attitude gives a positive influence for the Chinese young people. And of course, my issue become critical this moment. To recent years, the Chinese birth rate is going down. And some people have used my case to say, oh, LGBTQ plus this community bring the birth rate going down. I said, give me a break. You don't want to get married. You don't want to have a kid. That's your own issue. Don't bring to us. I said, okay, one rainbow flag open on stage, then you become homosexual, become transgender. I said, good luck. I said, give me a break. Use your brain. And they said, oh, maybe she's behind. She have huge money from America supporting her, try to turning over the society. I said, fuck it up.
Some common sense would be fantastic.
Give me a break. American president says something, nothing to do with me. I'm a Chinese.
Yeah.
I pay Chinese tax. I'm not paying American tax. Whatever Donald Trump said, have nothing calling with me. Don't bring me that section. I say for myself, I think I have confidence with what my cultural background. Chinese, certain things we just don't want to talk about it. We are not like completely like westernized, everything labelized, everything. No, we just like let it be. That's why we love the song of the Beatles, Let It Be.
Yes. Sarah, what can you do about the political situation then?
Well, I mean, I have so many thoughts. You know, something that's like permeating from here is like rising above our shame. And that's always been weaponized against us as a community. And I think never before, like, we're all of a sudden trying to prove that we don't want more of the pie, we just want a piece of the pie. And I just want to acknowledge that here, that we have always existed, we will always exist. And you can legislate against us, you can politicize us. We're not political. We're everybody. We're in every family as LGBTQ people. Trump's first administration, he had about 280 acts against our community in his first administration. In his second running for this election, he spent over $280 million on ads specifically targeting the transgender community.
That's a lot of money that could go to a good cause.
That is a ton of money. At the center of that money was Elon Musk. There's 1% of the community that's transgender. It's like the 1%. The 1% who is acquiring all this power and all this money, the billionaires, are targeting the most marginalized people in the world. To me, it's a distraction. Don't watch what they're doing to us, watch what they're really doing. Because as long as we're fighting or they're putting us on guard and they're politicizing us, they're making money and they're grabbing more power. That's my one. So I think also, in order for us to gain power back, I'm going to give you another statistic. I love statistics. That's my thing. And I love data. GLAAD is a 40-year-old organization as well. It's our 40th anniversary this year. And we were founded understanding that media could move the most hearts and minds around our community. In this, our recent study showed that this is in the US media, 100 million right-wing people are reached a week with right-wing media. 100 million a week. Progressive media reaches 30 million people. You have a 70 million person gap. And I think that's at the center of our challenge right now, because the narrative has gone to, we're talking about ideology, they're creating ideology. Being LGBTQ is just existing. And I think they've got the narrative. And so what we need to do is amass our power as influencers, as LGBTQ people have always been on the forefront of culture, creating culture, entertainment, being entrepreneurs. And we need to do that more than ever before to get this narrative back and to ensure that our community is safe.
Let's pick up on that word ideology, because it's something I came across on the promenade on the main street through here in Davos. There's a real backlash that we're witnessing. And if we can just get a picture up on the screens here, it was really interesting. If you take a look, there was a guy walking down the main street saying, "I'm a dad, a human male who protects his kids from gender ideology." There would have been about 10 to 20 demonstrators here for the first time, I believe, in the decade that I've been coming to the World Economic Forum. I mean, last year and the year before, it was amazing to see the support we had from companies here. They were lighting up the promenade in rainbow colors. It was great feeling that we had companies and decision makers behind us. And suddenly it's gone to this. How does that make you feel? Can
I just comment on that? Because we did light up the promenade last night in rainbow, and nobody's walking away. And in a lot of these side conversations with the top CEOs, they're not walking away. Now, are they being attacked because of the acronym, DEI? Yes. But they're doubling down on it because they know that you cannot grow your business if you don't grow who you're talking to.
The DEI being diversity,
equity, and inclusion. Yes.
JD?
Well, I have a reaction to that sign. I'm a dad. I'm a human male who would like my child to be the best expression of who they are, whatever that is. And I would say, as an antidote to whoever saw that person walking up and down the promenade, I would say to all of us here and to all of us watching the live stream right now, all of us have a choice. We can choose to agree with that definition of dad, or you can choose to agree with the definition that I've just put forward, one that I think is rooted in a view of the idea that we are all full people that deserve dignity and respect. So which definition would you like to choose?
I'd also like to know who funded the campaign, you know, who's behind these protests, because it takes a lot of money to get to this place, you know. We're all here for different reasons. I'm funded by the German taxpayer to give free and fair information to the world in my role. Are there any questions from the audience? Is anyone wondering why we even need to have this talk? You know?
Well, I do want to point out that we are over here on the sidelines, and on the main stage, not an hour or so ago, I had to listen to the president of Argentina, who tore down our community, tore down women who want bodily autonomy, and I thought it was outrageous.
Wow.
Yeah, outrageous. I walked out.
So there's a very big, important reason to be here on the stage today.
Yeah, and also for me, it's like incredible. It's like, it's 2025. Like, it's crazy. I just can't believe it that in this space in Switzerland, we are facing these kind of situations. It's like, what's happening? So I think we need to be aware of this situation, be aware that this is not only happening on streets, but also on digital spaces. So we also need to get together to create new spaces, safe spaces for the community, and also be aware that the things that we are seeing on our screens have a specific narrative around this situation. So just be very critical about the content that we read online. So this would be my message to especially young people that are growing with these screens full of information. Be critical.
Think about what you're liking, what you're forwarding, fact check it if need be, and think about what the consequences for people could be. Do we have a question down here, sorry?
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for bringing this to Davos and this discussion, so congratulations on that. I'm Timon Prinz, I'm from Germany. I'm the CEO of the Architects Association of Germany. I'm married with my husband for 30 years. We have 2 sons, blah, 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 normal life. And nothing. And what struck me, what you said, is about being out too much. I think it's interesting that was the point. Because I think that's what it's all about. All the pseudo-liberals say, well, as long as in your private capacity, do whatever you want, but let's not talk about it. And I experienced that a lot in my job, that I can talk about my husband for a little bit. Maybe there's one question about our children, but then it already very often becomes uncomfortable. And I see that. And I think in this very critical times now, it is to find a path to connect with the others, the people who don't understand us. How can we attract your attention and your understanding about our lives, which are not that different, even if you're a performer or whatever you are. But this question about being out too much, of course, nobody should go into hiding anywhere at any time with their sexuality or their orientation or whatever their life is. But I think it would be good to have ideas, maybe have some ideas, how to connect, to keep in connection with people. And one last thing, as many of you probably, we spoke to a lot of CEOs during this week about AI, of course, and all these filters of AI that are now taken away. And with many CEOs, we were wondering, well, did you ever believe in those filters? Or do you think, well, that was the trend to make more money, but now, as all these filters are taken away, I can take more money the other way. So was there really conviction? And I can transfer that to our cause. Are they really standing behind us, or is it as long as it's good for marketing? And if somebody says, well, actually, it's bad to be gay or whatever, then I go the other way. So I think these two issues are on my mind, and maybe you have some ideas on that. Thank you very much.
Who'd like to say something?
Well, I would like to go with the second question because, yeah, you're right. Every algorithm, every artificial intelligence or large language models such as ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all these algorithms always have a vision of the world. The thing is, many people don't make questions about this situation because they are, or we are, very used to this technology. We only ask questions on ChatGPT and get the answers, and it's very practical use. But we have to ask also, which information do they use to train these models? Because, of course, maybe now the situation is LGBTQ+ rights, but also let's think about the issues on the religion, the perspective that these models have about specific countries or specific beliefs. We have to keep wondering which data do they use. Not only to talk about the community, but always to talk about what is the real context that these models have. So we have to be aware of this because we need to train our own models on our own context information to create our own data. And well, this is a little bit aside this conversation, but it's always very important because this is shaping the way we think about the world, the way we are taking decisions. So yeah, just be aware because everything that we are seeing nowadays with AI have its own agenda behind.
Alex, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, sure. So I actually might answer the first question of, how do we get our stories out there? How do we relate to others who aren't natural allies? And I think the answer to that is actually sort of a bottom-up approach. It's how do we build communities with others who are in the same local spaces. I was talking to the leader of a philanthropic organisation focused on pooling money for LGBTQ issues. And she was talking about the model of philanthropy that's sort of emerging is community-based philanthropy. And it's a broader trend that I'm seeing in Australia. I think people, even in our political system, are getting sick of parties that don't reflect the interests of the communities. And there's been a move to have leaders and representatives in the community that actually reflect the concerns of the community. And I think building relationships with people in those spaces is a really crucial part of getting our stories out there and also bringing allies on the journey too, to share our stories in the spaces that we aren't necessarily in. So I think there's a bottom-up approach there. I think top-down leadership is important, but I think particularly in times where there is more hostility, building strong community connections is quite important.
JD?
I agree with that. At Nifty, again, what we are trying to do is bring young people together who are very different from each other in many ways. They may be people of color, they may not be people of color. They are all under-resourced, they may be LGBTQ. They may come from two-parent households or no-parent households. They come from all walks of life. But they all share one thing in common, which is an interest in entrepreneurship. And as the CEO of a youth-serving organization, I'm always so mindful to be watching and learning the young people we work with and to see what their perspective is. And just like Alex said, I consistently find when we are in the rooms that we put together and these young people operate, they don't see difference as a weakness. They don't even necessarily focus on the difference. They focus on their shared interest first, and they get to know each other. And then when they get to know each other, they become interested in knowing more about each other. And then they become friends, and they support each other, both as fellow young entrepreneurs and as fellow human beings. And I think we adults have the opportunity to create more of those rooms that send forth a message that difference is just difference. It's not inherently bad. And in fact, it's ultimately a strength.
We've got a whole lot of students in the audience who've come all the way from Zurich, thank you. I wanted to touch on education. Perhaps you've got a question along these lines, but Sarah, last time we talked about education in this space, our talk went viral on a fundamentalist preacher's YouTube channel, worried that this ideology, which we were talking about, was going to be stuffed down their kids' throats. What is wrong about telling the world at a very early age, not just at an entrepreneur age, that it's not all black and white. It's not just man and woman. It's not just, the family's not just husband, wife, kid.
Well, I always say, I grew up in a straight environment. Everything that was fed to me, from my TV shows to the books that I read at night, and I'm still not straight. So it doesn't work. I think also, you know, we are working with the Pope, and we have been working with the Pope and other religious leaders. And I think we've seen the most movement we've ever seen. Now, we've seen some setbacks. I'm not saying anyone, and don't, you know, we have to be careful about progress. It's not perfect. No. And no one is perfect in their path to progress. We're talking about an institution that has been around as long as humankind, honestly. And so to see the Pope talk about, you know, that gay folks can become, can enter the seminary, that he believes in blessing same-sex marriages. This is juxtaposed to what we're seeing in America, right? And so I think the other thing that I wanted to point out before we get into the questions is that there's a lot of great things happening too. We are really dark up here. There's phenomenal things that are happening.
In Thailand from today, you can get married.
Same-sex marriage is legal in Thailand. We've been working on decriminalization globally. When we started here back 5 years ago, I think we started 4 or 5 years ago in Davos working on that, there were 70 countries where it was still criminal. It's now down to 60. So we're making inroads in a lot of places. And when you have inroads, you have backlash. And that's what we're experiencing. And that's when we come together as a community from the top down and the bottom up. It's about getting to the influences of power and the players in that space. And that's why we come to Davos, because we want a seat at the table and not be on the table. Right. And that's why we work with local organizations, a lot of local organizations, to build up their voice and their presence so that they can have impact.
So it does feel like one step forward, 2 steps back. But how does it feel for you guys, you students from Zurich? I mean, is it even a topic for you in the schoolyard, at school, in class? Can you give me an idea? Be brave.
Who's going to be brave? Come on.
I saw one hand before.
We saw a hand.
Yeah, I don't think it's well, I think we're all kind of fine with it. I do have a friend who's not quite sure about his sexuality, and it's not really a problem, but I think it's really good of him that he's not scared to tell anybody or in school. Yeah, that's just what I have to say.
Well, it's good to identify that, isn't it? If you're, and it's fine to be unsure and to work it out. You know, we all have to work it out in life, don't we?
No, I have a story to share. You know, after 5 years, I became a transgender. In 2000, I adopted my first children. Now I'm a mother of 3, 2 boys, 1 girl. So when adopted children become a national news, the first transgender become a single mother. And all the social tag come to me, oh, she's so selfish. She want to accomplish her own life. She didn't care about the 3 innocent life, how she can raise the children. I said, shut up. I said, I'm a become a qualified mother or not, time will explain you everything. So now my boy 25, my daughter 22, my son 21. So 3 healthy adults, and they're raising by the transgender mother and a public figure. From a very young age, I tell them all the families have different structures. Some kids with parents, some kids with grandparents, some kids without parents, and you with a special mother, also transgender. Then my son asked me 4 years old, where my authentic parents come from? I said, I don't know. I said, but why you become my mother? I said, if I don't become your mother, I cannot have you. Then even with my children, I look at the video when I was 17, was a China best male dancer. I was dancing on stage, see the video. My son asked me, Mom, who is it? I said, that's your uncle. I tell my son, that's your uncle when he was young. Actually, I see the photo, the man said, I'm a dad, everything. Okay, you have your opinion to express. You are way free space. But education, not just put on the society, the family environment, the parenting, also very important. You give a positive idea to your children, what do you want to be, and open the space, let them find themselves. And now in the modern era, we have so many information floating around. Let the kids choose who they want to be. Very mature parents and society to protect the kids, find their own way instead of, push the society. No, it's also so issues, problem. That's why I have a personal opinion about Elon Musk. You don't do a good father's job, then you blame on your son. That's between you and your son's issue, your daughter's issue, but don't blame on society. Society have always different opinion there. Let the kids grow up, let them make choices. So I think that's my experience, and I'm fine. Then all my kids know the mother's transgender, whatever, everything, living their own life healthily. I think responsibility in the parenting's hands. Don't just blame on the society.
Yeah.
And the girls say perfectly fine. They're their classmate. Whatever you find your sexuality, okay, let time and be. Maybe you'll find yourself. Yeah.
Really good point. Frida?
Yeah, and something that I find quite beautiful is that what we are trying to say is it's okay to adopt. It's okay to want to explore the world. We have to support kids to do that. Yeah. We have to support everyone that is around us if they feel afraid, if they are not sure of what decision do they have to choose. The thing is, you have to be supportive to make people grow. So we are talking about it. We are not talking about like a specific ideology. We want to have them to choose whatever we want. So it's not just about sexuality. It's not about gender. It's about be the best version of ourselves that we could be.
It's about normalcy as well, isn't it? Rather than ideology or saying, look, I'm special. We all want to feel special. But we don't all have to be treated special. We can just be treated the same.
Yep.
And that is something time and again that people think, oh, we're under attack because they're suddenly getting the special treatment.
Yeah, I find it remarkable that the conversation is overwhelmingly framed as ideological. I just think that there is a very different way to frame the conversation. All of us wish to live authentic lives. All of us wish to live lives of consequence. All of us wish to be respected. Most of us want to live lives that are peaceful and friendly lives. And we're not saying anything other than that, really, at the end of the day.
Wouldn't it be great if that money you were talking about at the beginning of our talk, if that could be spent on bringing about peace to parts of the world where wars are creating a whole new extremist generation that has no idea of what normalcy could be, Is there anything that you guys take away from today that you think, okay, this is something that I can do, that I can enact or change, or how I can, in my position, you all have, fantastic positions. What can you do to make a difference to someone who doesn't have that position?
I think part of it is giving grace to people. I think, there is challenges where people can, I think weaponize a sort of moral superiority, and I think I've seen that in the past. I think it's important to give grace. I'm in a privileged position, and everyone is on their own journey to, being who they want to be in this world. And I think giving space to acknowledge the full humanity of someone is something that, someone in my position tries to do.
I would say I'll give you all a little gift, which is at GLAAD, we look at representation across all platforms, but one of them is streaming and TV and movies. And we just came out with our GLAAD Media Award nominations. And so if you go to our website, you can see all the content that's inclusive of LGBTQ storytelling. And there's so many films and TV shows that you can watch and share, because we know when you know someone, it's impossible to hate them. When you know their story, you can hate someone, and it builds empathy. And we need to, storytelling is an empathy machine, and we need that more than ever in our society.
I think my personal opinion is most sexuality actually is genetically born with. From my young age, I know I want to become a woman, but I don't know when. Nobody forced me, not my parents. I have no guidance, somebody influence. I see some stories, some movies, I want to become a woman. No, it's me, it's myself. I want to become a woman who I am. That's me. It's not, you cannot blame my father, you cannot blame my mother. Nobody to blame with. It's me, I find myself through my life journey. I think take it easy. Just everybody find themselves. Even the kids are born in a street families. So what? At the end of the day, whatever, early or later, he finds himself, congratulations. If you can carry on your healthy life view, we are congratulating you, But don't just make things out of it, especially about the LGBTQ group. I'm a person, I'm hated, use political tools. Against, that is really disgusting, Then I said, no, I don't even want to talk about it. For me, I just be myself. I'm not fighting for country. I'm not fighting for the system. I'm not fighting for the organization. I'm not fighting for the parties. I'm fighting for myself. That's it. Thank you so much for coming here to listening. We can talk about it. Then luckily, I'm still can express my feelings through my art creative, to my character I play on stage, to my TVs, yes. Yeah.
JD?
I'd agree with all my colleagues and just say that the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship is first and foremost a network of educators. And to any educators in the audience, whether here or watching the live stream, I think we all know the best thing we can do as educators is to take an interest in a young person, really get to know them in all their complexity, and really seek to support them. And support them in just a very simple proposition. Support them in their journey to become a person who is happy, fulfilled, and accomplished.
Frida?
Well, for me, I'm gonna look to create these safe spaces for everyone, especially in digital worlds, because we are spending so much time there. So we need to have representation on the digital world as well, to feel safe, to feel comfortable, to feel part of this new system that it's increasing every day. So I think we need that. We need to keep everyone's on mind while building technology. We have to embrace also all the diversity that we have, and we have to put that diversity also in this new world, in these new technologies, because it's going to be very massive, the growth that we have with AI. So what we want to make it grow, it's the best parts of the world, not the worst. So let's work for it.
Any more questions from the audience?
Okay, I come from a fairly conservative kind of country, India that is. So a few years back, we still have some royal families. So one of the royal family princes came out with his sexuality. And since then, his family is not being entertained for these princely get-togethers or marriages or whatever. So did he come out at the right time, or he should have enjoyed his sexuality? He was overseas studied and all that, he would have continued that. How do you look at it?
I think, it takes brave people in the beginning to change hearts and minds, and we can't change hearts and minds inside a closet. And unfortunately, those are the folks who end up losing a lot and it's horrible. And so there's no right time to come out. We always need visibility, because if you don't know us, then you can villainize us. And so it's just so heartbreaking what has happened to his family, and that people haven't rallied around them and raised them up. So that's how I would answer that.
Any other questions?
Hello, my name is Daniela, and I'm a strong and fierce advocate for any kind of fairness and respect. You were talking about, increasing violence, and I think probably, or you will read it later, we've heard, new definitions of freedom here, elsewhere in Davos. Would you have any practical advice for people, when we walk out today, what we could do maybe each and every single day to make the world a little bit fairer, more equal, a little bit better?
I'll start. You yourself can be a conduit for change, or if you know somebody who wants to provide an antidote to some of the messages that are being brought forth, to support them. We see this all the time in our nifty students. Our young people, again, they are not a monolith, and they have different viewpoints as a collective community too, but as I said, my impression is that the younger generation has a fundamentally different view on these issues than us adults collectively. And what I find is that these young people are bringing so much care when they hear messages of hate and messages of discrimination. They want to create social purpose businesses to protect LGBTQ youth's mental health. They want to find solutions, and they're so naturally inclined to do that. So I would say, when you spot someone like that, support them. And when you spot organizations that want to support the work, support us.
I've worked half my life in TV in front of a rolling camera, and people get the idea you have to be a certain way, you have to walk the walk and talk the talk, and what they forget is that you need to be true to yourself and authentic. And that's the hardest part that I find in training young TV presenters, is just finding that authentic self and being that person, and not being afraid of being that person in front of other people. It's the hardest thing to reach, and yet it's the winning factor. As soon as you have that, but you get so many TV executives and other people saying, oh, tone down the way you gesture, or tone down the way you walk, or how you speak. No, support that and allow these people to develop and be themselves and be authentic.
Yes, because I remember year 2000, I moved from Beijing to Shanghai. Then one afternoon, I have my girlfriend chatting, have a tea. Then I was a wild imagination. I said, look, one day the China society open, if I have talk show hosts, I'll be the first one. And my girlfriend said, Jinxing, forget it. You think the Chinese TV let the transgender on TV? Don't dream it. I said, you never know. The society is developing and changing. And 2015, I put my talk show on air. And I remember when I was doing TV recording, and one of the kids, 5 years old, they do the children's program, young boy, very cute, come run to me and say, Madame, my father said you are transgender, you're a man, but you're a woman now. I looked at the 5-year-old young boy, I said, yes, I feel myself, I can better be a woman than better in the man's body. I said, right? Then he looked at me and said, you are so fun, I like it, you're pretty. I said, thank you. Actually, the children are innocent. They have you just give the correct attitude. Natural, be there. That's it. Convince that. I think that's a society give the time. From the gentleman you're talking about, must be somebody coming out, pay huge price for the sacrifice. It's normal. All the society is different. I don't use American standards judging my country. I don't use the Chinese environment to asking for help. No. Like time explaining everything. But each individual have to be holding to trust yourself. Be natural, be normal. That's why I talk to Chinese LGBT group. I say, we are not asking for extra attention. No. We're just asking for equal. That's it. That's minimum. That's it. And then be yourself. And use our quality, our intelligence, our ability to contribute to society. And time will expand everything. That's my experience. Yeah.
So I hope that's given you some advice, some confidence, some more awareness, and a bit of a look into how the business world works, because corporates have really jumped on painting their logos with the rainbow flag. You know, will they suddenly start removing them? It'll be a really interesting to watch, really interesting space to watch in the coming weeks, months, years. We will have 4 years of up and down with the US. We will have more challenges. In Thailand, sure, same-sex couples can marry, but they can't adopt. The one partner or the second father can't be dad and can't be there for that child when it could be critical, yeah? So as I said before, 1 step forward, 2 steps back is at least my feeling, but there is real progress, as Sarah pointed out today. And there are real projects that JD launches that are not dependent on a state, you know, and there are broad-based coalitions that Alex is building in Sydney that are extremely inclusive and make a difference. And Frida has gone where no one else had gone before her and is really taking hold of an important sector which is more prevalent than ever this year and has you know, wiped out so many others. Artificial intelligence, it's being talked about everywhere here. And we need unbiased AI. We need fairness, you know, across the board. And not to forget that there are so many little guys among the minorities who do need your support and your support. So thanks for being with us today.